When humans get to a dark place, it's often very difficult for them to see the light or want to come out. Even if they have the best support system around, good family, good friends, sometimes they feel like they can't talk to them because they just won't understand or that they'll be disappointed in them. This happens a lot, and we frequently hear parents say about their kids who commit suicide, "I never knew, and I just would have never expected it." So sometimes what's needed is for those people to feel like they're not alone, that there are other people out there going through similar things. And just that one feeling can save their life. Today, we're going to speak to two young women who have created an organization to do just that, to provide an outlet for people who struggle, to learn that they're not alone. Let's talk to them today on this episode. This is the Better Mental Health for Kids and Parents podcast. All right, everybody, welcome to a very important episode. I am Dr. Christopher Fasano, your host of the Better Mental Health for Kids and Parents podcast. This is episode 46, Only Human. And on this podcast, in general, we discuss all of the relevant mental health topics, and in particular, why it's so important for us to teach our kids and the younger generations the importance of a strong mind and excellent mental health. Before we begin this episode, I invite everybody to check out the website, mentalstrongkids.com. You'll find all previous 45 episodes there, not just podcast audio. You'll have video shows. We have blog posts. We have articles, anything that's going on in the world of mental health. We're going to put it up there for you guys, for you to learn about, to teach your kids about, if you're a teacher, to sort of integrate them into your teaching. Anything we can do to help promote better mental health. Follow me at Mental Strong on Instagram. Contribute. Send me a message if you want to get involved, to submit your struggle. And any way you want to contact me to let me know how I'm doing or what you want the show to be, I welcome that. bettermentalhealthshow@gmail.com is the email address. All right, so I'm recording this today on September 10th, which is World Suicide Prevention Day. It's sort of a coincidence that is the day, and I'm interviewing my guests today. Bree and Chrissy, owner and founder of Only Human Co. Only Human, the organization. You can see my hat here. You can buy these available at their website, onlyhumanco.com. We're going to talk about that with them today and where the proceeds go and what they do. They're really incredible people, and they've gotten to dark places in their life. And instead of saying like there's no hope for me and I don't know what to do, they bottled that up. They took that and they said, I'm not the only one that must be feeling like this or feels like this. I want to create an outlet for people to go to in their time of darkness so that their light can sort of be rekindled. And that is what Only Human is. And they're doing incredible things. They have a new campaign going on right now this month. They do it every year. It's called the Stay Campaign, where they're urging people to stay. And they're donating some of the money that they raise this month to an organization around suicide and suicide prevention. I want to remind anybody that's listening, I'm going to do it all month, that if you do know somebody who is struggling or you think that they might be moving towards suicide or they mentioned it, the number to call is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-TALK. Please take it serious. I read these stories about kids in particular who their parents, after the fact, after these kids have died from suicide, talk about how great these kids are, how they were just so upbeat and so lively and full of life, and that how this was so surprising to them. And this is a common theme. And I think what happens is that people that get that dark and that depressed, they don't want to put it on their parents, or they don't want to be embarrassed, or they don't want to feel like they're a disappointment, as I mentioned at the beginning. So they just kind of deal with it themselves, but they're looking for you to dig. They're looking for you to ask, and they'll say, I'm fine, but they're looking for you to keep going. And so I think as parents, if you know your kids, if you sense that something is wrong, don't just take it at face value. You should dig a little bit and try to find out and understand. And if you have friends and people that are coming to you and they ever mention suicide or they ever talk about it in any sort of way, you just have to remember, if you're talking about suicide or you're bringing it up, that is not a normal thing. Like, most humans aren't talking about it or thinking about it. So if they bring it up in some capacity, you should take it seriously and not as a joke. And you should talk to them about it, and you should let their parents know. You should let somebody you know, or you should encourage them or call with them this number, so that you know you've done everything you can, because oftentimes you might only get one or two chances where people reach out for help. All right, so before we begin this episode, because I really want to put the majority of the time today to talk to Chrissy and Bree. The World Health Organization put this stat out today. It was pretty incredible, in that one person dies from suicide every 40 seconds. Okay, I think it's about 130 to 150 people are dying per day over suicide. People are ending their life. The second leading cause of death amongst teenagers, the third leading cause of death amongst 12-year-olds. We have a real problem here, and we shouldn't take it for granted. But there are people out there, and there are places out there that are doing good, that are trying to spread awareness, and we should do our best to promote them, to support them, because like I said, you could be the best parent in the world, but that might not be enough. And so your kid or your friend might need one of these places one day. And Bree and Chrissy have an incredible organization, Only Human, and we're going to bring them on today to learn about all the great things they're doing. All right, everybody. So we're recording this episode today on September 10th, which is World Suicide Prevention Day. And so it is fitting that I have these really relevant and awesome guests for you on today's episode. Bree Pear and Chrissy Saint-Massey, founder and owner of Only Human, which you guys can find at onlyhumanco.com. We'll get back to that a lot throughout the episode. And so there they provide a really awesome platform that is designed to help humans all over the world share their story, come together, and just do good, something that I feel like we don't do enough of today. I'm reading this from a little bit of a bio from their website, and they're going to talk to us more about it. They're an all-inclusive organization. They work to spread kindness, to lift one another up and inspire people to just be better, and provide a safe space, to sort of own your struggles. We've talked about this on the show a lot, to come together and own your struggle and overcome it with the help of others. And so, I talked about Suicide Prevention Day. This month, they launched a campaign, the Stay campaign. I'm rocking one of the shirts. They have them on too. I'm going to stand up. You guys can see my shirt. In recognition of Suicide Awareness Month, and all of those who have chosen not to stay, unfortunately, and thinking of all of those who might be thinking about not staying. So for those watching me, again, I have that shirt on. You guys can find it on the website. We'll talk about that. And I want to talk to them about this and more. So let me welcome Bree and Chrissy to the show. Guys, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right. So for those that might not be familiar with Only Human, I would like to start maybe with you guys just telling us about the organization. What is it? What is your mission? What are you aiming to do there? And then from there, we'll talk about you guys and how you got to founding and starting and running Only Human.
Yeah. So in general, Only Human is a community of good humans doing good things for good causes. It seems like such a simple concept, but Chrissy and I both come from a marketing background, and we decided, we needed to find a way to make an impact in the world, and how do you use your skills in that way? So building this platform for good where people can unite and do more good for each other and for the world. Our byproduct is clothing, but we actually call our clothing conversation starters, and they're meant to start conversations with other humans about topics that matter.
So you guys can see my fresh hat, and they're wearing their shirts out there. You can see I love this hat. I think it's fantastic, and I do think it's an awesome conversation starter. Be a good human. I feel like people are using human more. Do you find that? I feel like I thought I was one of the only people who referred to people as humans, and people would sort of look at me funny, like, dude, why are you saying human? And I think it's just sort of, for me, it was always like rather sciencey of me, but it's a way to let you know that you are me. Like, I am you, right? Like, we're all the same human, if you will. You might not think so, but we're all the same. So quickly, and then we'll talk about you guys individually, but how do you do this? I know you have a lot of people, you have people get involved in it, right? So do you have people sort of tell their stories on your site? Do you solicit, is it content generated from people like me or other people listening? Tell us about what we can find on your site besides the fresh gear.
Yeah, so there are quite a few different ways that humans around the world can get involved. One of them is on our site, there's a way to submit your story, right? Every month we partner with a different nonprofit, and we create a cause campaign around their mission and impact on humanity. So every month there's a fresh opportunity and an ask to say, hey, if you've been affected by breast cancer, lost someone who had breast cancer, if you, you know, are a veteran and have been struggling. We work with so many different causes that affect, you know, the millions of humans in this world, that every month there's this opportunity to say, hey, I have a story about that topic and I want to share it.
And yeah, what we found with humanity too is like the shared connection with those stories of, you know, I've been through something really hard. It might have been the hardest thing I've ever been through. That sharing that empowers others in ways that's really beautiful.
And then the flip side of that is, hey, maybe you're a human who's not quite at a point in your life to feel comfortable sharing your story, but you go through and you read these various stories, and there are little strings and bits and pieces that you pull out of them that you're like, hey, that is me. You know what I mean? And like you were saying earlier, it reminds us of our own humanity in a way that we're all connected. You know, our struggles might look a little bit different, but we all have them. So in one way, you know, our platform is a voice for those who don't always have that chance to get things off their chest and express who they are. We also have an advocate community. It's about 4,000 strong. It's basically a free community. It's a safe space we've created, online and now in person, where people can join in. And it operates in, you know, one aspect, kind of like a support group for one another. Every day we get on there and we're seeing humans root each other on or celebrating awesome things that are happening in their life. Or if they're going through some stuff, you know, you see other humans kind of huddle around them and lift them up and encourage them and say, hey, like, I'm always here to talk.
We actually saw our advocate community all on their own create like an emergency phone tree, because we're spread globally. Like, we're in different countries, so time zones and work schedules and all of this. But if someone's truly in need and really having a hard moment, they can kind of ignite that. And there's a list of, you can text me anytime, this is when I'm available, like, and it's completely a safe space to have that conversation.
You see, like, I mean, that's such a cool concept, right? Because people feel in this world today, we're supposed to be more connected. And I feel like sometimes the technology that has created this connectedness has made us feel further apart in weird ways. And so, like, but we shouldn't be that far apart. Like, we should, in fact, on Instagram, I was doing this sort of similar idea with your struggles, and people have been sending me their struggles. And I was getting some really deep, like, I asked people to just, I'm like, you know, you don't have to go into it in crazy detail. Just tell me what your struggle is. But people would get so into it and really, really get it off their chest. And some people would say to me, like, wow, that felt really good. And like, just hearing that, just like, people really want to just say it, you know, sort of say, like, this is what I'm going through, like, and I'm willing to say it and sort of put it out there, as long as they know that other people, they might say to them, hey, listen, you're not the only one. Like, I'm also going through that. And sometimes it just takes that one other person to sort of be there, or not even to be there and like, I'm going to help you, but just be like, well, I'm going through the same thing. It takes that sort of load off. I think everybody's been there. And so with that, you know, this is a big endeavor, and it's a really cool and ambitious project. So I would like to hear, like, from both of you guys. So how you got to this point, you know, what in your life brought you to, you know, found it and then now running it and working for it. So, you know, can we start there? I would love to hear your guys' stories about what was it in your life that sort of brought you to this point?
Yeah. So to start, it was about 4 years ago. I think I just hit a really hard spot in my life. And I think a lot of us can recognize one another in the feeling lost, without passion, direction, a little aimless in life. I had gained weight. I was unhappy. I was depressed. I was tired all the time. And I was in a relationship that just wasn't good anymore, for either of us. And so I got out of that relationship. We owned a home together, so I had to move. A couple months later, I lost my job. It was kind of that whole Murphy's Law feeling. And I think at that rock bottom moment, you have to make some decisions. Like, you can unpack and you can live there, or you can, you know, make some hard choices and say, no, I'm really going to make this change. So personally, for me, it started with my physical health. But along the way, I decided, you know, other people might need to hear this, to know that even through like a hard time, they can still evolve and get better and work their way out. So I really just opened up and shared my whole journey. So from day one, Only Human really began as just this concept of me recognizing the struggle I've been through and finding these tools, these resources, this new community to move through that. And I just did it online. I posted about it. I mean, I was that girl crying on the internet more than once. But yeah, it started there. And then I realized really when it went out into the community, like it wasn't just my story, it's everyone's story
Right.
in different ways. And that's where it became this cool storytelling platform. And so in June of 2017, I quit my full-time job, sold all of my stuff, packed up my Subaru with its tent on the top, and my dog and I traveled the US for 8 months. And in the course of that 8 months, Only Human really grew, and it really became obvious that it was something. And
So I'm just curious, what was your goal when you got in that car? You just wanted to meet people? Like what was it? Like you just were like, I'm out, like I gotta interact with other humans and that's it?
And so Chrissy's been my best friend for years, even prior to Only Human. So she's been able to see, I think, from the inside too, like the growth it went through. And believe me, I never went into this with this like big picture idea of what Only Human was going to be. I just knew that I trusted my instincts. I was doing it with the right intention behind it. And I needed to connect people because the same way you said earlier, technology is amazing if you use it correctly, but it also just drives people apart and makes you compare and judge.
Right. Right.
All these things. So I knew what started online had to go in person, and it had to start at events and meeting humans and shaking hands and hearing stories. So when I quit, I decided, I'm going to design clothing that really starts these conversations. And for me, it was more of like, I wanted to be able to travel around and showcase this message, forward facing the whole time. And I never thought I'd be designing clothing ever. Yeah, I made my fair amount of mistakes with that, but once.
Yeah, but you see, like this is a good lesson is that you never consider yourself to design clothes, but you found something that you really felt strongly about and you loved and like it moved you and that led you to now designing clothes. So like I always say, like, it's hard. It's really difficult for people to make that hop into the Subaru and travel around, sort of jump. Not everybody can do it, I understand, but if you can commit to that thing that's really burning inside you, it has to work. Like I feel like it has to work eventually, just because like you're not going to, like you're not going to let it fail because it's that much a part of you. It sounds like that's what happened to you.
And when you start having these conversations and people just, energy can be felt, like your passion can be felt when you really have that heart behind it. Every time I had a conversation, people were like, whoa, okay, yeah, no, I can feel it.
And still.
Yeah. Oh,
every day.
Yeah, every day. Repeating the story every day. I get goosebumps. Like
but that's what you need. So now you traveled around, so you end up in Arizona, which is where you are now. And is that just because you liked it there, or like was there something?
So Arizona is home. And actually,
it's home. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
okay.
I've been here for 20 years.
Okay.
And when I left, though, when I packed up my car, I was never going to come back here. I thought that I was leaving to go find where I did belong, but all along I belonged where I was. I just couldn't see it then. I was too unhappy. And going out and realizing, yes, there's this beautiful, wonderful world out there, but the people here, the community here, I didn't give them the opportunity to know me in this new way. So I had to come back and kind of humble myself and be like, I want you to relearn who I am as like this new person.
And so then you were doing this and human facing, and then did you have it launched at that point online, or no? Not until you got back did you really start to was it up and going, or you did that first and then you left?
Yeah, actually, so September 2016 was the launch of.
Okay, all right, cool. Yeah. All right, awesome. So, Chrissy, so then you guys have been friends. So that's the connection between the two of you, right? So before she got into the Subaru, you knew her, right? So that's how you met, and so you shared a similar passion. You were struggling as well, and this sort of brought you. What was it besides the friendship that really drew you to this?
Yeah, so she mentioned, that she worked at a marketing agency. I actually worked there with her. So when she lost her job a few months later, I lost my job as well.
God.
So as she was going through her kind of struggle journey, my wife and I had been going through the fertility process. I suffered a miscarriage through that. I lost my job. And I had just some lifelong trauma that we'll probably dive into here in a few minutes, that I'd sort of been sorting through, and it came to a culmination, I guess, of sorts around that same time. So throughout all of that, I really had developed an anxiety disorder. I was really struggling with my mental health and my physical health in a big way. I got a brand new job that was really high pressure, and I was navigating through learning kind of a new career path. My best friend had bounced out and was doing exploration thing. And so, with all of that said, I got to probably one of my worst times of mental health and dealing with anxiety, depression. Every day I'd wake up and it felt like bombs were just going off and I was in a war. I was calling in, moving around meetings at my job and not being able to show up in this world in the way I wanted. And I actually got to a point where I checked myself into a mental health hospital, which was really, I think at the time I felt embarrassed about it, but it was probably one of the most courageous moves that I made around that point. So after,
I mean, I'm sorry, but most people, from what I read, like most people don't do that, So I would just like to ask, like, what was it that you said? Like, what was it that you were like, I have to do this? Did you just get so dark where you knew that if you kept going that way, that it wouldn't end up well? Like, what was it that was finally like, I gotta go, I gotta do this?
Yeah, that was it. My wife and I at that point, she had successfully become pregnant. So we had a kid on the way. I was unhappy. I was like, man, I don't know what I'm doing with my life right now, other than waking up every morning and being sick to my stomach and afraid to move. And how am I going to get out of this? And there's only, what I found in my experience was there's only so much that my friends and family could do to support me. And I got to a point where it was if I don't do this, I might not make it, So I did that, and it was extremely hard, but the best decision I've ever made regarding my mental health. So once I went through that and I was learning, I came out of that experience with these are the changes that I need to make in my life, and I'm the only one who can own those changes. And they might be scary, they might be big, who knows what's on the other side. But I started making those changes, and when I did that, I freed up the space in my life. And it just kind of was amazing timing with Bree and where she was at building Only Human to say, like, hey, like, I get what you're doing now, like on a visceral level. Like, what can we do to amplify this together, and how can we, we've always known how to work together well and make stuff happen. So that's kind of where our two journeys reconverged.
Well, and we have a really good balance together too. And I think we knew when she freed herself of that and that I had done the same thing, it was like, okay, she's the logic, strategy, I'm the wild, like, creative, and together it was like we could make this bigger than we ever could even dream right now. And that's really the trajectory we went off on.
Like, you need to find that balance. It's important. Like, I am the same. I am the kind of wild, nonstop talking, like always going, can't stop thinking, crazy, waking up in the middle of the night with all these ideas. And my wife is very calm. She's like, she's a teacher, elementary teacher. She's like, she'll listen. She will humor my crazy ideas, even if they're wild. She just sits there and listens. And like, that is in a functional mechanism. It's necessary. So it sounds like you guys had that. I also, Chrissy, just want to highlight one thing. I hear from people sometimes who tell me that they don't think that they're able to get better. That like, you get to that, like, it was funny. We were talking about Tony Horton, who created P90X. He had a disease in the past few years that he said he got so depressed. He was so dark that he saw no light. And I mean, this is like a celebrity. If you can't see the light in your $1 million mansion, like, people don't realize that everyone gets that dark. And I had people say to me things like, I don't care what happens. Like, there's no way I'm getting better. I feel like people with a mental disease or mental illness, or any human, always struggles, regardless of how good you think you got or how better you are. But you clearly did better for yourself. You got better. You came out of a place where it wasn't good, right? So that could be inspiring to people. So can you just, from your experience, and maybe both of you, like, you can find light, right? I mean, it's there for you. I'm trying to push this idea of like, it's not hopeless. Like everybody feels dark sometimes, but you can find the light.
Yeah, absolutely. I just had this incredibly impactful conversation the other week with someone who's we've been working with to grow some only human initiatives, and he likened it to like we're all humans and we have a candle inside of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that flame's burning bright and we're on fire and we're lit up, and maybe it's sparked by joy or happiness or all of these great things in life. But the converse side of that is sometimes we're dealt with these heavy blows, and
Yep.
that will blow and that flicker of that flame will be really apparent, and in that moment it gets scary, and then there gets to a point where if you're not there, if you're not connecting with other humans or really trying everything you can to find the resources and help to get you out of that struggle or change that mindset or whatever it is, it varies for every human. Like that light can go out for a while. When it's out, you don't know where to turn. You don't know where the
Yeah.
switch is to
Right.
turn the light
Right.
back on. You don't know
Right.
where the lighter is.
Right.
You're kind of just floating there in the dark. And I think, it's easier than humans realize to get to that point. It can happen really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're there, it's scary as hell.
Yeah, no,
But
you're right. I'm sorry to interrupt. I mean, I'm and like you mentioned, like your family and your friends, like sometimes it's not enough. Like, like so I've heard stories of people who've been lost to suicide with really great families, like really, support structures are there, but it just wasn't enough. And I think sometimes for people, like they need they need something else to find, and like things like only human, or things like anything, something where they can maybe relate in a way where they don't feel as judged or as going to be critiqued or something like that, with this whole stigma around it, is important. And I just worry that some people, when they get that dark, aren't willing to look, or they're not going to be found. And I think that's why we need to bring as much public awareness out there as possible so that it can catch them in some way, So I hope that through these sort of initiatives, through what you guys are doing, through any sort of initiative that brings mental health, suicide, or any of these topics to the forefront, can catch someone's attention to be like, what is that? Like, what are they talking about? Because I feel that way. I'm feeling that way. So to transition that with the campaign for this month, it's a good time to transition to your Stay campaign. So talk to me about the campaign specifically. Who are you working with? What are the goals there? What are you looking to achieve? How people can get involved, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Stay campaign this is the third year we've run it. Unlike our other cause campaigns that only last a month, this campaign is so impactful and so important to our audience. It's actually something we talk about throughout the entire year. Mental health is a struggle that can be found in a lot of different awareness topics, so it's something we're constantly talking about. We have an entire resources section now on our website, so onlyhumanco.com/resources. The community behind us is really incredible. So this month we're partnered with a nonprofit called Elevation Society, and
Okay.
they're all about suicide prevention through connection and community. So similar
Okay.
to like the advocate get-togethers we do, the bringing people together. We co-created now an event this month, a Stay event here locally in Phoenix, where it's a artistic display. It's yoga, it's connection, it's sharing, resources and storytelling. So yeah, the Stay campaign is definitely one of the more powerful. You want to talk to some of the stories in it too?
Yeah, absolutely. We get every month, like I said, we have humans submitting stories, and some of the stories that have come in so far just in the first week or so of this campaign, like they just shake you. Mm-hmm. I was in, and not even just online, we were at Boulder Pride this last weekend. Mm-hmm. And had some of our Stay merch out on the booth, and this woman walked up with her kid who was a young teenager, like 13, 14, and I could tell they both were gravitating towards the Stay, items. We have some shirts and pens, and the kid looked over and we have this always promise me tomorrow enamel pen, and they grabbed and looked at the mom and said, hey, can you buy this for me? And I was watching what was happening. Like immediately the mom turned to the kid, put her hands on their shoulders, like they were looking straight in each other's eyes, and she was like, yeah, I will. This is for us. Like, this is your promise to me every day to stay. Mm. So, I mean, we not only get story submissions, but we're seeing real life, humans impacted by this topic and bonding and stories coming out in that way.
And so to add to that too, I know it doesn't sound like clothing or like these items could really make that much of a change, but this has been the most beautiful thing that we've witnessed, and actually one of the proudest things we have seen through Only Human is that these items, they connect people in this really amazing way. But the amount of people who have walked up to us and said like, I had the plan. I knew like I didn't want to be here anymore, but then I found you guys somehow
Mm.
and it saved me. And that like we get these stories all the time. Every event we go to, there's at least one where it's like, okay, I'm crying,
Yeah.
like you're
Yeah.
hugging
I mean, I
people.
can only imagine what that does for you guys, how it makes you feel. Like, like I'm getting a little emotional just listening to that story. I mean, I have I have a 7-year-old 5. I almost said 5. He's 7. It's crazy. And like it's alarming to me, the statistics I'm seeing and reading about with young kids today. Like suicide is the second leading cause of death in teenagers today, and like it's on the rise. And I think it was like the third leading cause of death amongst 12-year-olds or something like that. And I'm saying to myself, like, that's crazy. And I don't know if people really understand this. I don't really know if it's out there. Like, parents or like people. I wrote a blog, or I talk about it a lot. And I'm saying to people, like, listen, like, this can happen. Like, this is a real thing. It doesn't take much, like you said, for someone to get that dark. And people are afraid to talk about it. Like, they don't want to talk to their kids about it, or they don't know how to approach it. And like you said, a hat like this, or a shirt that you guys are wearing, or a pen or something like that might be what's needed to sort of like bridge the gap from like, listen, like, I got this shirt because this is a real thing. So like, you do see that, then you see like kind of parents and kids sort of coming together over this stuff, because that would really like warm my heart to know. Because sometimes I hear people like, I don't know what to say to my kid, and I'm like, it's okay. Like, you got to be able to talk about it in some way.
Yeah, nonstop. I mean, the thing is, especially even between strangers, not even like a parent-child relationship, you're not going to be walking around a festival and randomly go up to a human and start spilling your guts about your depression, most likely.
Right.
But if you see they're wearing, a shirt that says "Promise Me Tomorrow," and you're catching on to the drift of like the message they're putting out in the world, it opens up this space. It opens it up between strangers. It opens it up between families and side families. It's really incredible. So I mean, at this event we're going to have some of these stories shared in person, and I'm sure quite a few tears are going to be shed, and there are going to be some really heavy moments. But we're also going to balance that out with, hey, here are some resources. We have some nonprofits that are going to be tabling there, and provide people a way to connect and not just leave there with that heaviness, but kind of shed it off together and connect with other humans.
And I feel like the event this year for us is more about celebrating the lives we do have, what we're capable of
Right.
here, the choices we can make to get ourselves out of that darkness, and how we can do it together.
So you mentioned the event. I believe your event is on the 12th. I think I'm going to try to get it aired on the 12th. I know a lot of people aren't. It's in Arizona, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you guys have it available to like watch? Do you put it up, or is it only in person? Can people see what's happening?
Luckily, this year we actually have some really awesome media coverage happening of the event. So we're
Nice.
have a couple recap videos.
Cool.
Only Good TV is sending a crew out to cover the whole event, so they'll be covering it. We have a photographer there. We'll definitely do some live videos on Instagram and streaming. Cool. There will be ways for people to be involved, even if you aren't here in Phoenix.
Do you guys do regional events? Do you do events in different places, or like in New York? Do you guys ever do events or anything like that? Or do you just try to hold them locally?
I was actually just out there with Vanessa, our shared friends, in New York for World Pride.
Okay. All right, cool. And you guys booth and stuff like that at these events, or you just sort of represent?
Yeah, it depends. So we go to a lot of different festivals. We have a really large LGBTQ plus following, so we do a lot of pride events. In tandem with that, suicide rates are very high within that particular community, so I think that's an important tie-in. But we also do volunteer events. When we went to Colorado this last weekend, we volunteered. We got a group of humans together, and we did a 4-hour shift with Habitat for Humanity. We also do give trips and retreats that are part community service, part mental health, obviously part connection. In a few weeks, we're going to Mexico. In February, we're actually going to Costa Rica and partnering up with a nonprofit there. So we're all about, we talked earlier, like technology can disconnect people. We're about using that as a platform to then let's connect, let's get as many as humans as possible, like talking about these conversations, and then let's go out in the world and meet in real life and do good.
Yeah, for us, it's like social media, it's not just about like following someone, it's about like using that to find someone in real life.
See, like, I feel like it's so powerful. If you can find in the most random parts of the world, you'll find people who have the most similar and same struggle as you. It doesn't matter like where you are, what language you speak, like how big of a place, how small. Like I look at the Bahamas and I'm watching what those people are going through in their life, and like, it sometimes it takes crazy events like that to sort of snap you back into your life, to look around you and say like, dude, you're in a house, like you have water and like you have food around. Like these people have nothing. They lost everything instantly. And that's a different kind of struggle, obviously, but there are struggles, common struggles. We worry, we're anxious, we're afraid, we're depressed, we're sad. Most humans feel like that on a daily basis. And like, I really love just to hear initiatives like your guys that aim to have a place where people can feel like, listen, I'm going to talk about it because I know I'm not going to be judged. One of the last things I want to ask you guys, like if someone out there wants to get involved with Only Human, can they do that? I know, how do they do that? What's a good way for them to get involved? I know you said they could submit a story, but is there a way they can sort of spread the mission of your organization?
Absolutely. So we have an advocate community that is thriving and incredible, and we're 4,000 strong all across the world. So it's a global conversation. If you go to onlyhumanco.com/advocates, you can apply. Applying means you share a piece of your story with us so that it feels like a safe space where everyone can be there. We have a private Facebook community, but we also do like challenges. So if you're sporting something Only Human and you go volunteer for 8 hours, we'll actually give you free things. And there's like a gamified way of winning gear from us for doing good for yourself or your community.
Cool. And your gear, do you guys donate some of your money to, or how does that work? So I'm if I'm going to go buy a shirt, does it go certain places, or is that how you guys give back a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So every month when we partner with a different nonprofit, we design the apparel in tandem with their mission and impact on humanity. So Elevation Society, our nonprofit this month, 10% of all sales, it doesn't even matter if it's just our stay merchandise, 10% of all sales will go back to them at the end of the month. And we're also raising donations through this event that's coming up on Thursday, through some awesome corporate partners, and just doing everything we can to make an impact there.
And I guess lastly, when I have people like you guys on, if for people out there that might be struggling right now, and they're listening to this, I would ask you guys, like, what would you say to them? Like when you hear people, they come to you and you say like, I'm not doing so well, I'm not feeling so great. What is it that you guys say, or you would say, that would make them think differently, or sort of, like you said, try to reignite that candle inside of them?
You're not alone, first of all. And that connecting with others not only can heal a big part of you, but, oh man, I'm going to cry. I think Only Human healed something in me that like I'll never be able to pay back. And just telling others like you're not alone, and if you find the strength and the vulnerability to just share the hardest moment in your life, like your adversity can be used to like your advantage. And it could heal other people, it can save lives. Like your story, though you think it might be the hardest thing you've gone through, like literally could be what saves someone else's.
And to add to that, I'd say, for me, I'm always telling people, like, I've been there. I've had to take it second by second, even like step by step, blink by blink, and like just try to persevere in those little bits and connect. I think the biggest thing is don't put yourself on an island. Just try to at least connect with one human, and as you start connecting, you'll reawaken something inside yourself, hopefully that will get you through that really hard time.
Well, I would say that you guys have already given back more than you can think about right now. So, I mean, you know, that's for sure. You should be proud of what you're doing, what you've done. And I want everybody to go that listens to this show and was watching this on video to check them out, onlyhumanco.com. Bree and Chrissy, thank you guys for this little bit of time. Thank you for what you do. And I really appreciate it. And I hope to get more involved with your organization too, as we go, because I'm a human and I want to be, more connected to humans as much as possible. So, you'll be definitely hearing from me again. And, I appreciate you guys coming on the show.
Chris, you're awesome. Thanks so much.
No problem. Thanks, guys.